It is Thursday, the 21st of November, 2024. My name is Pigeon and this is my song of the day. Today we're talking about a band that we talked about during the first week of this show, I believe. The Avalanches. Remember them? The Avalanches are an Australian group of DJs who created an album back in 2000 called Since I Left You. It's composed of over 3,000 samples. It's incredible. Go listen to it. I talked about the first two tracks on it back at the start of this podcast. Today I'm talking about a song from their second album, which was released 16 years after their first. Because they made their first album, they just kind of disappeared into the ether. Well, not really. I mean, they released remixes. They always talked about making a second album. They did tours, but it just never happened until suddenly in 2016 it was done and they made it. And I was so excited because I've known about the Avalanches since like the late 2000s, and suddenly they were going to be releasing a new album. I was like, that's incredible, because their first album is one of my favorites. But also I was trepidatious, because second albums are often very disappointing because they have to live up to the first one. And I was worried this wouldn't live up to the hype. And the first single they released is a song called Frankie Sinatra. And I like that song, but I didn't know if I liked the vibe of it enough to fill a whole album. And I was like, I hope the whole album isn't like this. And then the second single they released is a song called Colors, which is the song we're talking about today. And I heard that and I was like, my faith has been restored. This song is perfect. It remains one of my favorite Avalanches songs of all time. And that is much more the vibe of the album, because the album kind of takes this arc and gets kind of more psychedelic as it goes on. And this song is about halfway through, and it's really this weird kind of psychedelic soundscape, and I love it so much. So we're going to go listen to it now and then come back in a few minutes and talk about it. And that was Colors by the Avalanches. Again, I feel like a radio DJ whenever I do that. Please forgive my stuffed nose from my cold, by the way. I may sound a bit stuffy for this episode. So, no, I just love that song so much. Such a great psychedelic feel to it. It kind of eases you into it. It has these samples at the start of Verde by Tuca. There's the theme song from The Wonderful World of Color, which is a Walt Disney show, is also sampled. Specifically, the voices going, colors, colors. Wonderful, wonderful colors. And then you hear the see all the colors. And that's a sample from Not So Silly by Aunt Teresa, which apparently is the same album that the Parrot sample from Frontier Psychiatrist in their first album comes from. Really interesting. I guess they just had that sample kicking around and decided to put it in. And then it bursts into this strange section. I don't think you need a trained ear to be able to tell that it's playing backwards, or at least the vocals are. So what's happening here? What is this vocal sample that's playing here? Well, it's a sample from the song Where There's a Heartache by the Sandpipers. And basically they just took the sample, reversed it, sped it up a bit. And so what you're actually hearing is the words, after the tears true love can start, where there's a heartache there must be a heart. But it's playing backwards and it's at a different speed, so it's like, and it's got this weird feel to it because anything reversed does, but because it's singing reversed, it produces its own new melody. And then the Avalanches came in and added new music over this or under this that mirrored that melody. And then there are vocals from Jonathan Donahue from the band Mercury Rev, where he sings this whole other thing about mermaids. And I think it's really interesting. I feel like he listened to the reversed sample and then wrote his lyrics, because they do kind of sound like what you're hearing in the reverse. It sounds like they say mermaids. So I can imagine him listening to the sample and being inspired, which is such an interesting way to do a song like this. Listening to something backwards and then writing something new off of that kind of makes me think of Unearth My Nina by They Might Be Giants, if you know the whole story about that. It's just their song Thunderbird with the vocals flipped, and then John Linnell just sang what he heard in the backwards, but making it sound more like words. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so after we get this whole reverse section, slowly Jonathan Donahue's vocals fade in. So it goes from the rays are only here into hey mermaids, and you start to hear it partially, and then eventually it becomes the only vocal you hear, which is, hey mermaids, I'm only here in the sun to play. I want to join you in the urban surf and learn to love you in a neon way. Hey mermaids, I'm only here in the sun to play. I want to join you in the urban surf. Hey mermaids, I'm only here in the sun to play. Wonderful, wonderful. I want to join you in the urban surf, colors, and learn to love you in a neon way. I love that so much because it overlaps with the backwards thing and then becomes its own thing. And it's this like I said, because it's such a psychedelic song, it's someone singing to mermaids, I want to join you in the urban surf and learn to love you in a neon way. Like, it's nonsensical, but it's got a vibe. I mean, it's such a summery album, and this has a summery vibe to it, talking about surf and mermaids and whatever. Like, it feels like a beach, you know, but like a beach on acid. And then we get the next bit, which is Jonathan Donahue singing again. Oversea, under stone, no one wants to be alone. Everybody's going somewhere. After dark and the bars are slow, where do all the mermaids go? Everybody's got there somewhere. Everybody knows it's somewhere. And then it goes back to the reversed sample. I love this as well because, again, it feels a bit strange and nonsensical, but also you get the vibe of it. Oversea, under stone, no one wants to be alone. So talking about like both people above the ground and underwater, you know, above the water and underground. No one wants to be alone. It's this human condition, right? Everybody's going somewhere. After dark and the bars are slow, where do all the mermaids go? So he's bringing in the mermaids again, but he's saying like, you know, no one wants to be alone, so where do the mermaids go when everything's closed, right? Everybody's got there somewhere. Everybody knows it's somewhere. So again, presenting this like in this strange psychedelic way, but you feel what it's kind of conveying to you, even if it doesn't make too much lyrical structural sense, right? And then the rest of the song is just those samples again, and also Jonathan Donahue singing. And I love it so much. It's such a sweet song, and the first time I listened to it, like I said, it just washed over me. I had my headphones on, I just closed my eyes and let it happen. It's so good. I love this whole album. I recommended all Avalanches stuff, especially if you like electronic music, but particularly, obviously, their first album is great. If you want something that's just pure plunderphonics, their second album and their third have both, they're still centered around samples, but they have a lot more original music as well, so they do have a different vibe, but I still love them completely. They're a rare band with zero misses, in my opinion. Like, the songs I like less, but album-wise, they're all 10s for me, which is wild. But I can't wait for another one. It took them 16 years to release their first, and then 4 years to release their second. And it's been 4 years since that second, so we can hope that a fourth album is forthcoming, but God only knows. You see, that's the thing. I don't want them to do something just for the sake of releasing something. I want them to make something that's complete and good. And I trust them to do that, because they've done it 3 times now. So it might take a while before they release a new album, but I would like one. And it would probably be great because I trust them with it. But yeah, no, just a great album, a great band, a great song. If you want another song with a similar vibe, there's a song later on the album called Kaleidoscopic Lovers, which is featuring the same singer, and it gives me kind of similar vibes to this one. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. Just a quick one. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell other people about this show. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Break it down.
From the band Murky Rev,